Welcome to Big League Dreaming, the podcast, a show about fulfilling your dreams and taking it to the next level. On today's show, Zach, we have a pretty entertaining guest, right?
Yes, you could say that. We have Scott Dwyer today, and he has a long history of coaching at multiple different levels, high school, college, professionally in the minor leagues. And now he's the assistant coach at the University of West Florida, where, believe it or not, the grad assistant for their team is his son. So he gets to coach at a high level every single day with his son. Very, very cool.
And he also spent some time as the hitting coach at the West Michigan Whitecaps, where Zach met him. You're going to find out all about Scott Dwyer here on Big League Dreaming, the podcast.
Ever since I was a kid,
oh yeah,
I was big league dreaming.
I was big league dreaming.
For as long as I live,
Always,
I'm big league dreaming.
I never got to bat in the major leagues. I'd have liked to have that chance, just once. To stare down a big league pitcher. Make him think you know something he doesn't. Chance to squint at a sky so blue that it hurts your eyes just to look at. To feel the tingle in your arm as you connect with the ball. To run the bases, stretch a double into a triple, and flop face first. Wrap your arms around the bag. That's my wish, Rick and Silla.
Well, as we said, welcome to Big League Dreaming, the podcast, and we're so excited about today's show. Zach is joining us today. We're co-hosting the podcast. Zach, how you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Having a great day so far.
Great day. Memorial Day weekend has been a lot of fun. We've been having a lot of fun on the podcast as well, getting some great guests. Love the interview we did with Scott Kornberg a while ago, the broadcaster for the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. That was a lot of fun. And then I don't know if you caught the kind of an impromptu interview I did with Eric Haas's coach from a catcher for the Tigers.
I did. That was really cool. You were able to get in touch with him. He shared a lot too. That was pretty neat.
Yeah, he did. I love the guests we're getting for the podcast because we're giving you different insights of the game. If you're just joining us or you're new to this podcast, it is a show. It's a baseball podcast with a dad and his three sons. And son number one, Zach, is joining us today. Son number two, Ty, is doing all the production. He's a little busy with his YouTube channel. He's a music influencer. He and his wife have a cool YouTube channel, and they're always busy with production on that. And then, of course, son number three is in South Bend, Indiana. I should say Zach's in Charlotte, North Carolina. Son number three is in South Bend, Indiana, where he's busy. I don't know what he's doing. He seems like he's always coaching, even in the off season, right, Zach?
Always grinding, just like you taught us, Pops.
We love to grind. We love this game of baseball so much, and that's what this podcast is all about. Talking about fulfilling your dreams and taking it to the next level, right? And we all have different dreams of what we want to accomplish in life. And baseball just happens to kind of bring us all together. And Zach, you lined up a great guest here. Who do you have with us today?
Yes, I'm so excited. Big one today. We have longtime baseball coach Scott Dwyer, who has an awesome career. He has coached professionally and at the collegiate level. Specifically, he's coached for those hometown West Michigan Whitecaps, which is really cool. And now he finds himself as the assistant coach at West Florida, which has really become a D2 powerhouse down there in that, I believe it's Gulf South Conference. And They had a huge regional tournament this past weekend. Unfortunately, the ball didn't fall their way, but it's very impressive what that program has done. And I know Scott is a huge part of that. So happy to have him on today.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
I know that Coach Jeffcoat has done an awesome job there at West Florida, the Argos. And Coach Dwyer, it's so great to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. It was so awesome working alongside of your son when he was working there in the front office with the West Michigan Whitecaps. And, always enjoyed him coming into the clubhouse and coming into my office, and Mark Johnson, the pitching coach at the time there. And Zach would just sit down and sometimes ask phenomenal questions about the game of baseball. And you could just tell that he had that baseball IQ, the really good baseball mind. And he would just ask questions about certain things that took part in the game, or maybe it was something about a pitching mechanics with Mark Johnson, because Mark Johnson is such a wonderful pitching coach. And so we would just all sit there and just talk about baseball. And And Zach probably remembers better than I do, but, we have all these rovers that would come into town and, great people, not just great baseball players, but just great people in general. And Zach would find himself sitting in there and just listening to all these guys tell these wonderful stories. And so I was kind of like Zach, a guy that never played in the big leagues, but I'm there to listen to these stories, and none of them were ever about how great they were. They're just all funny stories and just crazy things that happened in a game. And stuff like that happened to us in West Michigan. We had crazy things happen. But Zach was so awesome. It was just nice having somebody working in the front office that knew the game so well. And as we call it in baseball, as you all know, feel. And Zach just had that tremendous feel. And he's like, well, I probably don't want to go into their office tonight. They just got their butts handed to them. But that we didn't care. We just loved Zach coming in there. And you just knew he was going to do something with baseball. I didn't know what it was, but Zach, again, will remember this better than me. But I was like, Zach, you got my phone number. Use it anytime. Use me as a reference. I just respect your son so much because he worked so hard and he just loved and respected the game so much.
Well, Scott, we definitely want to talk to you about your career and how you got to West Florida. But before we do that, we got to talk about this tough loss you had over the weekend. You're in the Division II NCAA regionals and trying to make it to the World Series. I find it really interesting because Zach's school at Davenport University was also like in almost the same time you were playing. Davenport was also playing, and they had this incredible game. They just missed out on making it to the World Series as well. How I know you had your player interviews today, exit interviews. How does a team reel? How does it come back from an experience? I mean, you guys had an incredible season, ranked number 1. You had 37 wins, tied for 5th most wins in school history. Incredible season.
It's, because we had 9 of our players come in today and say, thank you for everything. Some of them have used up all 4 years of eligibility, but we had our catcher who was an honorable mention All-American, has another year of eligibility, but he's moving on because he's got to do his teaching credential. So he's got to teach 40 hours a week starting next spring. So he's going to move on. We have a left fielder that got a professor's position at a junior college. He's got another year of eligibility, but he's going to go on because they're going to pay for his master's and doctorate degrees. A right fielder who's got another year of eligibility, but he's going to become a financial advisor. And then we had 2 pitchers, and they both have got great opportunities starting their careers. And so they were all so thankful. They're all in our office crying, but we totally respect that decision. But everybody said the same thing in their individual meetings. It just happened so fast. We did not expect to lose that game. And just everybody, the team chemistry was the best I've ever been a part of with any team, whether as a player or as a coach. And everybody was so unselfish. Everybody put their teammate before themselves. But it was just amazing that after that last out, we made the last out in the bottom of the 9th. We struck out, and it was just like, that's it. We're done. Oh my God. Because nobody was thinking, oh, we're going to lose this game. We just had an incredible mindset, each and every one of our players. And unfortunately, we lost a tough game to Tampa on Saturday at 3:00. We had to bounce back. No, I'm sorry. It was at noon. We lost to Tampa at noon. Had we won that game, like we really figured we were going to, we are in the driver's seat because now Tampa has to play Lee University, and the loser goes home. The winner has to now beat us twice. And dadgummit, we lost that one, and we knew we had a tough road ahead of us. And gosh dang it, we had the lead, but then Tampa came back and they ended up taking the 8-7 lead, and they held on. And, kudos to them. They've got a great coaching staff. They got great players. I think that was their 19th regional championship in school history. So, but going back, how do we bounce back from this? We've got some good new recruits coming in for next year that we're excited about. But now that some of our players that we're expecting to come back aren't, we're going to have to probably go the junior college route or the transfer portal route. Because I think a lot of kids at the Division I level are going to enter into the transfer portal this year because COVID has really, really screwed things up for the game of baseball. It's crazy. But, again, I know I'm long-winded here and I'm sorry, but I think our kids are going to bounce back because we do have a nucleus that are returning, and they saw the camaraderie and the team chemistry, and they're going to make sure that it stays like that. And they're going to embrace our new players, hold their hand, will you, and basically say, this is how we do it here at West Florida. And the word that you guys were just using earlier, I always say it, embrace the grind.
Love it. Yeah, they're going to be just fine, Dad. They're going to be just fine.
I think so.
Scott, I love what you said there, and I was giving Zach a chance to talk about his Davenport team. But I'll tell you what, you can say that in a second. But I'll tell you, Scott, I love what you said, because this podcast is about obviously fulfilling your dreams, and sometimes your dreams, what you work so hard. These kids, these seniors that you say are graduating and moving on, right? They had dreams to play professionally, play collegiately, right? And they've now realized, okay, that dream is done. I'm on to the next dream. And I'm on to now taking what I've built and what I learned to be a good teammate, a good friend, a good son, a good brother, and taking all these skills that you learned through baseball and realizing the dream now continues, but in a different way.
Exactly right. And, Mike Jeffcoat, our head coach, does such a tremendous job of not just developing baseball players, but first and foremost, he teaches these kids through his experiences so that when they walk away from the game of baseball, whether it's with a diploma in their hand, a degree in their hand, or they get a chance to play some pro ball, whatever. But once you get out there into the real world, they are going to be a much better husband, a much better father, and a much better coworker than they were before they showed up to our place. And so I really feel like he doesn't only just, or I should say we don't only just develop baseball players, we develop men. And, the game of baseball, as you all know, is so much like life. There's so much adversity. There's so much negativity. How are you going to handle it? How are you going to handle that? And what type of adjustment are you going to make? And so that's like you two, you three, or all four of you. I forget you got three boys. So all four of you know life's not fair. And the game of baseball isn't fair sometimes.
It was tough watching Davenport this past weekend. I was so excited for them to make it to regionals. That school just seems to amaze me every year, because like when I played there, it was the program's second and third year of ever having baseball in school's history. And you could just feel that the program was going in a great direction. And even early on in those days, and at that time, they were NAIA school. Right. They had a lot of success. They went to the NAIA World Series, I think 2015. And then they just recently got bumped up to NCAA D2 a couple years ago. And They won the GLIAC tournament this year. And then they went to regionals, and they were in the driver's seat, tied ball game 9-9 going into the 8th inning. And in the game, they had to beat Trevecca twice. They beat them the first game, and then they lost in game 2 on Sunday. So it's just it's so great to see them do so well. And they played a 3-game series at Trevecca early in the year, and they took 2 out of 3 from them.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
So they're gonna be set up for, they got that new stadium. They're gonna do well in the future. It's just really great to see.
That's awesome. And it's like you can attest to this, Zach, when we were out in the outfield and everybody's hugging each other after the game. They're taking pictures and just crying together, hugging each other. And I told them, guys, I want you to turn around and look at the stands, and you see that banner where it has all the regional appearances. I said, this class right here, you guys got us to the regionals 2 different times in the last 4 years. And, COVID, unfortunately, we got to count it. Nobody went to the regionals, but I've been a part of this staff for 3 years now. And I told those kids, you will always come back here and watch a game, just like you, Zach, can go back to Davenport and you can say, you know what, I'm a part of this success. I helped build this program. And I think that's something that a lot of times players forget. And I ask you, now that you're older and it's been a while since you played there, do you still feel that way? Like, hey, man, I was a part of something big and it's only going to get bigger and better.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it definitely goes back to the coaching staff too, because Kevin Tidy is still there and he does a great job with the alumni group and he's keeping us all connected and keeping in communication with all of us. I text him, good luck, coach. Thanks, Zach. So, I mean, it runs deep. Once you have success, it's really easy to root for each other and root for your school.
Exactly. That's awesome. That is so cool. That would have been really neat if they would have made it and we would have made it.
I was going because Cary, North Carolina is only 2 hours away. I was going to go to the World Series. Yeah, because I live in Charlotte.
Yep, that's right. I forgot. Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah, I said that to my wife and to Zach's mom. I just said, could you imagine if both these teams would have made it? That would have been a story there for the podcast for sure. But
no doubt.
Let's get into your background because I was trying to do a little research. I love Zach knows this. I love to pride myself in research and learning as much as I can about the topics that we're talking about and the people that we're interviewing. I don't know a lot about your humble beginnings. Where are you from, and what college did you go to, and how did you get to West Florida?
Okay, that's a great story. So I was born and raised in Pacific Palisades, California, small beach town in Southern Cal, in between Santa Monica and Malibu. And my father had played in the Cubs organization in the late 40s. And so he was a really big baseball fan and just loved athletics. And he's pretty much gave me no choice but to play sports because he knew I was very active. I was diagnosed. Well, they said I had ADHD and they wanted to put me on Ritalin. And my mother's like, no way, we're going to self-medicate him, which meant spankings. But so I was very active in sports, baseball, basketball, football. Not very active in the classroom. So I had to go the junior college route. And my dad said, you're going up to Northern California. You're getting away from here. Our local junior college, Santa Monica City College, was not a good baseball program. And he just knew that that's where everybody goes. He called it 13th and 14th grade. And so he said, you're going on. So I went to a college, which ironically now is a Division II school, Menlo College. And I went there, played for Richie Price, who's now the head baseball coach at University of Kansas. And so I played there for 2 years, went to the University of Arizona. We won a national title in 1986. I wasn't very much a part of that because everybody in the infield ultimately made it to the big leagues. And so I knew I wasn't going to play. So, but after my junior year, Menlo College went from a junior college to a NAIA and then a D2. And so our assistant coach, who we played for there in junior college, got the head job. And so we're like, there was a bunch of us that were kind of lost in the shuffle, if you'll say. And so we went back and finished up there. And that was just wonderful because I just wanted to play. And I still had aspirations to play pro ball, but I just wanted to play every day. And my experience at Arizona was great. Learned an awful lot from Jerry Kindle, who was the head coach there at the time, who was an ex-big league shortstop for the Minnesota Twins. So I was really blessed to have Richie Price, who was an ex-middle infielder in the Angels organization, Jerry Kindle. And so I learned an awful lot, really honed in on my skills from a defensive standpoint. And so then after my career at Menlo College, got signed as a free agent with Cincinnati, played a couple of years, and wasn't going to happen. I'm 26 years old and I'm being bumped up and down, just kind of fill in at third base, shortstop, second base, whatnot. And it was a great experience. Don't get me wrong, but I knew it's like, hey, I just don't have the ability to play in the big leagues. I've got to figure out what am I going to do with my life. And so Richie Price, who I mentioned earlier, was my head junior college coach. He was not the head coach at University of Kansas yet, but he called me up and he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, my dad's trying to get me to come and work with him at NBC Sports, advertising and whatnot. And I was like, Coach, can you see me sitting behind a desk with a suit and tie on every day? He's like, no, stud, you're too active. So he said, if you ask me what I think you ought to do, I think you ought to coach. And I was like, what? I never even thought about coaching. And I said, well, why do you say that? And he goes, you were always like one of my assistant coaches out on the field. You always knew where to be. You always talked to people, just communicating, and you just knew the game so well, your baseball IQ. And so I thought about it, and I was like, okay, well, what do I have to do to become a coach? He goes, well, you got to go back to school and get your master's degree. I almost reached across his desk and punched him. I was like, Coach, you forget I didn't really care much for school. The best thing that probably could have happened to me, a gentleman by the name of Dave Bingham, who's now in player development side of things for the San Diego Padres. And he was also the 1984 Olympic baseball coach with Ron Polk and Skip Bertman. And he hired me to be his graduate assistant coach at University of Kansas. And now I had to pick a major. And I knew it had to be in the PE field because that's what was required. If you want to be a head coach, especially junior college coach in California, you have to have a master's. So I saw sports psychology. And I thought, man, I think that would be really, really beneficial for me as a coach. And so I got my master's in sports psychology. And to be honest with you, I think my best tool as a coach is being able to help guys with their mental thought process, training, the verbiage that they use, and just getting their mind right. Because as I've gotten older, I'm 55 years old now, and it's great. You can teach somebody how to hit, you can teach somebody how to throw a slider, teach them how to run the bases properly, whatnot. At the end of the day, more times than not, when a pitcher's having mechanical issues or hitting issues, it comes from their mindset. And so it's just, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I apologize. So let me back up. So after I got my master's at Kansas, I ended up getting my first head job, which is at College of the Redwoods in Eureka, California. They'd only paid $5,000 a year. And I just got married, and my parents had just retired to Eureka, California. They had a big, huge ranch style house. And my dad said, well, you can't afford to live on your own. So you and your wife can live, at the other end of the house until you get your feet underneath you. Well, the first year was rough. I would go to work every morning at 7:00. I'd be on the phone calling the high school coaches in Oregon and Northern California, trying to find recruits, because I got the job August 15th. Well, school started August 18th. So I inherited a team that went 3-30, and we were terrible. Golly, we were terrible. And thank God for El Nino. We had a lot of rain that year. We had 10 rainouts, and we went 10-20. But every day I would, except for the spring and the fall, I would end practice and go from practice to the lumber mill. There's a lot of huge lumber mills out there along Northwest California. And it was called Palco, Pacific Lumber Company. And I would go up there and I would work in the green chain. And what that is, it's the last part of the process. So they drop the redwood trees into the debarker. They get all the bark knocked off. Then they go through the process of being cut up into various shapes, size boards, 2x4s, 2x2s, 2x6s, you name it. And those things come down on a green chain, and I got to pull them off and stack them accordingly. And you got to move fast. And I would go through a pair of wax dip gloves every night. And I would wear holes in my jeans from sliding the boards across my quads. And I was outside, and I would get to my truck. It would be 3:30 in the morning, and I would have to scrape the ice off the windshield, but I was covered in sweat. That's how hard that job was. I'd go home, sleep for a few hours, get up, go to the college at 7 a.m, have the practice plan all typed up, and be on the phone recruiting. And so I didn't have any assistant coaches my first year. So I did everything by myself, and I was young and dumb, and finally got smart. And I brought on one of my friends who just got done with his career, and I hired him as my pitching coach, and our program took off. And the athletic director called me and he goes, "Hey, I can give you $10,000 next year, but you have to be the equipment manager, which means you're going to wash all of the basketball players' gear and all the football players' gear."
Oh my God.
That was terrible. But it was an extra $5,000. I didn't have to work at the mill anymore. Then I come home from practice one day. My wife says, "Hey, we're pregnant." I went, "Oh my gosh." So now I'm delivering pizzas. So I'm delivering pizzas at nighttime, driving these cars, Tom's Sourdough Pizza Villa, with a phone receiver on top of the hood of the car that lights up. And I got to go to people's doors and I got to deliver pizza. Well, Eureka, California is only 25,000 people, and they're fanatics about their sports. And so every time I go deliver a pizza, they'd say, "Hey, aren't you Scott Dwyer, the head baseball coach at College of the Redwoods?" Like, "No, I get that a lot. Here's your pizza. Have a good night." But so then my third year, they bumped me up to $15,000. And the athletic director, who was the old baseball coach, he said, "Listen, our president's not going to make your job full time. You need to start looking elsewhere." So I was, I really liked where we were at. We were building a good program. We're going to postseason play for the first time in school's history. And again, that was because I had a great pitching coach in Brian Nagel, and we just were getting really good baseball players out of the state of Oregon and some kids in California. So a buddy of mine that I played with at Arizona, Dave Taylor, was the head coach at University of Wyoming, and he hired me after my third year. And again, this is the NCAA, and I don't want to get started with them, but they had the restricted earnings position for coaches where you could not. So you had a head coach full-time, you had one full-time assistant. Your second assistant was restricted earnings position, could not make more than $16,000. So pretty much what every school did back then, they would give you $12,000 and you made the extra $4,000 through camps. So, and since then there's been a lawsuit, and, the party of coaches won. So the NCAA had to back pay. I don't even remember what happened. I never saw a penny. So, and that was something that it wasn't a law. It wasn't a rule. It was just a lot of schools did it that maybe didn't have a big athletic budget. And University of Wyoming was one of those. And so while I was there in the fall, we were starting to hear rumors that they were going to drop the program after this year. And so I'm making some phone calls to some of my friends. I'm like, "Hey, if you hear of any coaching jobs out there, let me know. I think our program might be done after this spring." Lo and behold, Dave walks into my office, the head coach, and he says, "Hey, Hill Denson from Southern Mississippi just called me to ask permission to talk to you about a job." And I said, "You got to be kidding me." He's like, "No." And so I talked to him, and he said, "Hey, I need you. I've heard a lot of great things about you. You're a really good recruiter, do a great job of evaluating talent. Would you like to go to Mississippi?" And I said, "Well, what's the pay?" And he said, "It's $35,000 a year." And I mean, I thought he said $1 million. And my wife and I and our son's a year old, just elated. And they moved us. They had a moving truck come up and take all of our stuff, and we jumped in the truck and we drove to Mississippi, and we were there before Christmas Day. And awesome. Hill Denson was unbelievable. The entire athletic department at Southern Mississippi was extremely hospitable, very welcoming. And I was there, that would have been 96, 97, 98, 99. And just a wonderful experience, a lot of fun. Just college baseball in the South I can't explain it. It's crazy. And Southern Miss, when I was there at the time, we ranked in the top 10 for home attendance. So it was just a great atmosphere. I loved it down there, made a lot of friends, a lot of contacts. And then my father had passed away, and Hill Denson had stepped down, and we had a new coach, but Corky Palmer, and my father was ill, and I went to go visit him, and he made me promise that I would try to get a job back in California so I could watch over my mom. And lo and behold, Lassen Junior College, their head coach calls me up, and he says, "Hey, I need an assistant coach. It's full time. I remember when you were the head guy over at College of the Redwoods, always hated playing you. Great rivalry. I'm going to step down and retire in 5 years, and this job will be yours." And I said, "Okay, well, what's it pay for an assistant?" He goes, $40,000. I said, "Okay." And I said, "What do you make?" He goes, "I make 120. I said, "Okay, I'm going to come there for 5 years, and I'm going to sacrifice that. It's affordable living." Long story short, we win the conference every year, go to the regionals every year. He steps down, comes back to the office. He goes, "Well, I got bad news. Oh, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first?" I said, "What's the good news?" He goes, "You're the new head coach for Lassen College in Susanville, California." And I said, "That's awesome. What's the bad news?" He said, "The bad news is it's part-time." I said, "You got to be kidding me." He goes, "Yeah, and you're going to be making less as a head coach than you did when you were the assistant." If you'll excuse me, I got to go get my charger. My phone says
actually this is a good time. Actually, we're going to take a quick little break here because you're doing a fantastic job. Zane, number 3 in South Bend, has some questions for you that he just texted us. And then we're going to have Ty, the middle one, who does all the production and the music for the podcast, play a little bit one of his songs. So we'll take a little break, and then we'll come right back to you, Coach.
Perfect.
I gotta give it to God. Said it's been a long time since I've been on the ground. New year, need to live on a rhyme. Cause I slip and I slide, I gotta give it to God. Can't believe sometimes I forget what I got. And it's a free life, so I'm about to be hype, Even if they say I'm weak, right? Yeah, I'm about to dream like a 3-0 count. And the homie got the green light.
And welcome back to Big League Dreaming, the podcast. John Gonzalez, along with Zach Gonzalez. Zach is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I am in Grand Rapids, Comstock Park, actually, Michigan. We're having an incredible conversation, Zach, with Scott Dwyer. He's an assistant coach at the University of West Florida, the Argonauts in Pensacola, Florida. And we're just catching up on his history. I mean, he's a pretty entertaining guy.
Yeah, I mean, to coach in college baseball as long as he has, guys have been around the horn. And everybody has, a lot of coaches have a very similar story to his, going from school to school, trying to make it work, and to listen to how much dedication it takes and sacrifices. It's pretty eye-opening to the normal baseball fan that doesn't really know all that information.
I love too that Scott's really getting into some of getting into the behind the scenes of what it takes to be a college baseball coach. The life that he's lived, right? In the things that you have to do, sacrifice day in, day out to live your dreams and help others pursue their dreams. I think it's a fascinating look at that. So joining us back on the show is Scott Dwyer. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you very much again for having me. This is a lot of fun.
This is a lot of fun, and we love hearing your story. And I love that you're giving us, like I was just saying there to Zach, that kind of behind the scenes look, the peek inside the life of a coach, because you often don't hear that, right? You see the players on the field, you see the coach or the parents in the stands, everything happening, right? But behind all these players and parents, there's a coaching staff. There's a head coach, an assistant coach, maybe a pitching coach, a graduate assistant. We're going to talk about your son in a second, because I know Zach has some questions about that. As I said right before the break there, Zane, who is a pitching coach at NAIA school in South Bend, Indiana University at South Bend, IUSB, he has some questions for you. But let's get back to your story, because all of a sudden you were just saying that you had this chance to be the head coach, but they were going to make it a part-time position. What school was this at again?
That was Lassen College. So that's in Susanville, California, which is the northeast part of the state, just 90 miles north of Reno, Nevada. It's God's country. I loved it there because I loved to bird hunt. and I loved to fish, and it was outstanding. I mean, I even had 7 acres. I built my own log house there with my own 2 hands. And I really, really loved it there. And, but that was a crushing blow to me, and they were going to make it part-time. So now I no longer have benefits. And, you know, I've got at the time I was just getting through a divorce, but I still, you know, have my son, and he's 9 years old, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with myself? And so I had made some friends with Western Nevada Supply Company, because they were supplying me with all my piping and all my waterworks stuff to build my log house. And so they were so impressed with my work. They're like, hey, would you like to come and work for us? We've got a store here in Susanville. We'd like for you to be the branch manager. And it paid pretty good money. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was more than I was going to make as an assistant coach or a part-time head coach at Lassen College. And
or delivering pizzas.
Or delivering pizzas, exactly. And so I did that for a little bit, and I didn't like it. I did not like it at all. And I said, this is not me. I belong on a baseball field, and I've got to something's got to happen. And the superintendent of the school district there in Susanville contacted me, and he said, you have your master's degree, right? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, do you have a teaching credential? And I said, I do not. He goes, well, we would love for you to be our head baseball coach, but I need you to start working on your teaching credential. That way we can hire you with an emergency credential. So I said, okay. So going back to school online to get my teaching credential while I was teaching high school and coaching high school baseball. And I did that for 3 years, and it felt like 30 years, but it was good because it was a small town. You know, it was only about 5,000 people there. And so, you know, everybody, I probably had 15 kids a year on the varsity team. So everybody got to play. Nobody was really ever unhappy, but it was just high school baseball, and it wasn't very good high school baseball. And a buddy of mine who I played with, he was the cross checker for the Texas Rangers. And he called me up and he goes, hey, we're looking for a hitting coach for our rookie ball team. Would you be interested? And I said, Kevin, I said, if you remember, the Baltimore Orioles tried hiring me when I was at Southern Miss to be a hitting coach. And it was just like playing pro ball again. You only got paid during the season, no benefits. And he goes, this is different now, man. They're going to pay you year round with bennies, with retirement. And I was like, okay. And he goes, are you serious? And I go, yeah, I'm serious. If you're serious. And I said, who's in charge here? Is this you? And he's like, John Daniels, who's still the general manager for the Rangers, reached out to me and asked me if I knew of anybody that was out there. And you're the first guy that came to me. So talked to Scott Service over the phone. He was the farm director. Of course, now he's the manager for the Seattle Mariners. I got hired right over the phone. And so I was with the Texas Rangers for 2 years. And then the Detroit Tigers came knocking. And I thought, wow, I love the Texas Rangers. Don't get me wrong. And, you know, those were 2 great years. We're going to the World Series. We got the best minor league system in baseball. But I knew that there was really no shot of me moving up because I coached rookie ball my first year. Next year, they sent me to Hickory, which was in the South Atlantic League, and I loved it. That was awesome. But they just weren't too sure, am I going to go back to rookie ball? And I did not want to do rookie ball, extended spring training and rookie ball all there in Arizona. It was just too hot for too long. So Detroit came and I jumped all over it. And what a great experience. We had a great run. Obviously went to the World Series. What was that? Zach, was that 2014?
They went to the World Series?
Yeah, the Tigers and the Giants.
Wasn't it?
Can't remember.
I guess it would be 14.
I think it was, but you know, just working with some unbelievable people. Toby Harrow, who was my boss, the roving hitting guy, played for Ted Williams. I mean, Toby was unbelievable. Gene Roof, our outfield coordinator, taught me a great deal about outfield play because I was a middle infielder, so I didn't know it. Outfield, like when I was a junior college coach, okay, outfielders go out there and shag their MVP. That's your work. And just catch the ball and hit the cut. That's all I care about. But now, you know, I'm definitely a lot more knowledgeable in outfield play. Thanks a lot again to Gene Roof and Wayne Kirby, who's now the first base coach for the San Diego Padres, but he was our outfield coordinator when I was with the Rangers. And oddly enough, Jace Tingler, who's the manager for the Padres now, he was our manager with the Rangers in the Dominican League. So he's really come a long way, and I'm very proud of Jace and very excited for him. But anyways, getting back into professional baseball, but on the coaching side was so great for my development and growth as a coach. And again, I talked about my master's degree in sports psychology. When I got to Detroit, they had a sports psychologist, Dr. George Carlo. And this guy was the smartest guy I've ever met. And he was President Obama's, not like psychologist by any stretch of the meaning, but kind of an advisor. He was the psychologist for the Navy SEALs, our special ops guys, Green Beret, whatever you want to call them, Airborne Rangers, and the Detroit Tigers. And so he taught me a great deal about how the mind and the body can get disconnected and how we can keep it connected. And it's all with the mindset. It's all the thought process and the positive mental attitude. And so, I learned a lot from my degree, but now I'm learning from a man that has worked with trained killers and working with big league baseball players. And it was just amazing the things that I learned from him. And it taught me that there's not just one style of coaching. Each player's got a different personality. You have to understand, are they a relaxed learner or are they an intense learner? Therefore, now you know how he's going to respond by that certain coaching style. And so, for example, if he's a relaxed learner, we can't be in his face and chewing him out. We got to approach him from the side and just kind of rub his back and say, hey, man, this is what you did wrong. This is what you can do to fix that issue. Now let's go out there and play again. And so that was really valuable to me. And then the other thing I learned was, when you're teaching hitting, which I was doing with the Tigers and Rangers, you got to be able to teach one part of the swing. So, for example, we're talking about the bottom hand. You can't just say it with one style, with one verbiage, because Zach might get it, but then his brother's like, I don't get what you're saying. So you better have 3 different forms of explaining how the bottom hand works. And so, again, that was stuff I was doing, but I didn't realize I did it. And our sports psychologist would rove around from town to town. And every time he came to West Michigan, he's like, hey, can I hang out in the batting cage with you and just listen to you? And I said, absolutely. And please correct me. Whatever you see I'm doing wrong, please let me know. And that he had pointed that out to me. He goes, you always teach whatever you're working on in 3 different facets. You say it 3 different ways. So that way all those guys can understand it. And he goes, in order to be a successful instructor, you've got to be able to do that. And so meaning that, so like we would talk about the bottom hand, how the bottom hand has to unfold. And I would say, guys, it's like you're throwing a Frisbee. Those of you that hit right-handed, throw right-handed, you're never going to throw a Frisbee with your left hand, but that's how the bottom hand's got to work. So some guys are like, oh man, that makes sense. Other guys, I'd say we go from a fold position to a unfold position, eliminating the shoulder. And they're like, oh yeah, I got that one. And then other guys, I would just say, hey, think about the front elbow working through the inside half of the baseball. And so somebody else would go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I get that. So that was really developmental, or huge for me, developing me into a better coach. And so again, I'm very grateful for my master's degree from Kansas, very grateful for Dr. George Carlo for teaching me so much about how the mind works and trying to keep it connected with the body. And so, I've taken some different roads in baseball, but I tell you what, everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. And I just feel like I needed to meet these people so that they can help me become the best baseball coach I could become.
I know Zach has some questions for you before we get to Zach's questions. Scott, what about pro ball that was the most challenging part versus coaching college, and how did you make that transition from going from pro ball and then going to college?
So pro ball definitely mellowed me out as a coach. It really gave me more patience. And, sometimes we forget where we come from. And sometimes I forgot I was that player that swung at a 1-0 slider in the dirt. And it's like, why am I doing that? And then as a coach, a player would do that. I'm over there pulling my hair out. That's why I have none. And so pro ball really gave me more patience. And I remembered, hey, man, this game is difficult. It's very, very hard. You got to understand, these kids aren't trying to walk people. They're not trying to make an error. They're not purposely swinging at the ball in the dirt. It's going to happen. It's all part of the game. And you just got to be there and stay positive, because that young player's beating himself up already, and you getting on him isn't going to help him any. So that really, really helped me a lot. The hardest thing for me was when we would have a 50th round draft pick that was a good baseball player, and he wasn't getting enough at bats because we had to play that second rounder.
Yeah.
And that was really a tough pill for us to swallow as coaches. And we were sitting there going, man, we're in the hunt for the playoffs. We can't be playing Johnny. I know he's our second rounder, but we got to play this other guy, our 50th rounder, because A, he's better behind the plate, and he's also hitting over 300. Our second rounder's hitting $120. And so sure enough, we put him in the lineup, and we get a phone call after the game. Hey, you can't do that. So that was the frustrating part. Then later on, towards the end of my coaching career in pro ball, you could really see where the data and analytics side of things were taking over. And that was really frustrating. And I still got friends in pro ball, and I just hear some nightmarish stories. And it's funny now at the college level, you're seeing more and more ex minor league coaches are now in college coaching.
And you're also seeing vice versa too, where a lot of these huge college coaches are getting scooped up by professional teams. And it's like, this guy coached college baseball for 20 years, and now all of a sudden he's taking a AA hitting coach job with such and such team. It's like very normal now, because I feel like professional organizations, they want to bring in that camaraderie of a coach to be able to rally the team together and kind of have that different take and mindset of let's be a family almost, and let's win, rather than, we play every day. This is this is pro ball, get your work in, we'll see you tomorrow kind of thing.
Yeah. And, I know there towards right after I walked away, there were a lot of young junior college coaches in their early 20s that were being hired, and they barely played any baseball, and they couldn't even throw a BP or hit a fungo. And a buddy, you probably remember Kevin Bradshaw, our roving infield guy with Detroit, right, Zach?
A little
remember
bit.
KB? So yeah. He's with Baltimore now. And he was telling me a few years ago, he goes, we are actually hiring people off the street to throw BP for spring training because our coaches cannot throw, all these young guys we've hired. So a lot like what you said, my biggest issue was, okay, what are these coaches going to do when the player walks into his office and says, hey, listen, John, I'm struggling. I'm hitting $178. This has never happened to me. I don't know what to do. I'm just swimming in my own head. What do you got for me? And that guy's going to go, well, I never played pro ball. Heck, I barely played any college ball, so I really don't know. But here, look at my computer. According to my computers, we need to get your launch angle up about 6 more degrees. So yeah. I felt like it was great when I was in it at the time. We could all relate to these players, because I can't tell you how many times guys walked into my office, these grown men crying crocodile tears down their face because they never faced adversity before, because they were just so good in college and in high school, their travel ball team, whatever. And so now for the first time, they're struggling and they have to face adversity. And I felt like, once again, between Dr. Carlo and my sports psychology master's degree, am being able to experience it myself. I could really relate to these guys and help them out and get that mind right and get that mindset corrected. And like we always use the word grind, and I use that word all the time. And every day I tell the guys, embrace the grind. But I also tell them, I said, now when you guys come here, because we have a $500,000 hitting facility here at the University of West Florida. It's gorgeous. And so there's a little keypad on there, and they can go and hit whenever they want. There's machines and all this great stuff. And I said, now guys, don't ever come in here saying, hey, I got to find my swing, or I got to get my swing right. It's all about getting your mindset right. You get your mind right, your swing's going to be right.
And if that space helps them get their mindset right, even more the better, because I think that one of the things that doesn't get discussed enough in baseball at any level. I have a long history of coaching at the youth level, right, and high school level, and that's my history, and I've been a coach with 20 plus years of experience. But no one talks about the mental side of it. I could care less, because kids are going to naturally want to hit, right? Or the pitchers are going to want to naturally throw and get better. They will do that if they aspire to it. But how they handle the adversity of a 0 for 4 day, right? Or leaving the winning run stranded at second base, or giving up the grand slam home run walk-off. I mean, that's the stuff that never gets talked about. So I love the fact that you're bringing the mental side of the coaching experience to the table.
It's huge. I'm telling you, I'm a big proponent of it, a big fan. As a matter of fact, with COVID throwing the curveball at us this year, I told Mike Jeffcoat last summer, I said, when our guys come back, instead of Sunday night study hall, I want to be in there and I want to talk to the guys 15 minutes tops, but I want to talk to them every Sunday just about a different part of the mental side of the game. And he goes, well, COVID's probably not going to allow us to group up like that, but let's do it through Zoom. So every Sunday, once our fall semester started through January, everybody was on their phones listening to me talk anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes about the mental side of the game. And we talked about focus. We talked about concentration. We talked about the little voice in our head and retraining it. Because like I told them, I said, guys, when I was playing, when I had 2 strikes, what do you think my little voice was saying? Scott, don't swing at the curveball. Yeah, or don't strike out. But mine was, don't swing at the curve in the dirt. And everybody in the country knew I loved swinging at that sucker down there. And I would swing. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I didn't realize it till I went and got my master's degree. And I was like, man, I wish I would have known this when I was playing. But to me, it's everything. And yeah, mechanics are great. But once again, when a guy is trying to do too much because he feels like I've got to get a hit here or else I'm not going to start the next day. I need to. Your mechanics go down the drain. There's no connection whatsoever. And that's all from here. So yeah, you can tell a guy, hey man, you're flying open with the front side. You're ripping the front side when you're pitching. You're doing this, but find out what's going on up here. And so yeah, don't get me wrong. We've got our maintenance program that we do. We hit off the tee, do the short bat, do your flips. But for me, it's just, hey, how's your mind? What's going on? What's going on up there? What are you saying to yourself? And I talk to the pitchers all the time, and I'm not a pitching guy, but I can definitely find out what's going on up there. And we were really nervous at the end of this fall. We thought, hey, we can hit, we can play defense, but we can't pitch a lick. And all of a sudden, some of our pitchers changed their mindset, and 3 guys step up to have great years as our number 1, number 2, number 3 starter. Got a couple of guys that come in middle relief, got a great closer. And then all of a sudden, in a blink of an eye, you're looking going, holy cow, we're number 1 in the country and we're going to host a regional. Wow. So I'm really big on the mental side. I think it's huge, and shame on coaches that don't spend any time with their players on that. And you're wasting their time, because so many of these guys, they don't want to admit it, but we talk about visualization all the time too. And I said, guys, visualize yourself turning that double play, visualize yourself making that catch up against the wall, or visualize yourself working through the inside half of the pitch and driving it back up the middle. And so, the guys that buy into it, man, they're, at the end of the year, they're like, holy cow, that stuff really works.
Yeah. And it kind of freaks you out when it does work. Cause I mean, because I would do the same thing. I'd be on the on deck circle. I'd close my eyes and I would see myself hit a single right up the middle. And then I'd go up there and I'd do it. And I'd be like, freaked out.
You're like, wow, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, no
Well,
doubt. So,
Coach, I want to ask you real quick. I know that Zach wants to ask about your son, but Zane wants to know about, I guess he's in the mindset of, he's coaching, right? So he's in the mindset of working with players right now on the training side of things. He wants to know about cage progressions and the importance of cage progressions, or your philosophy on cage progressions.
I think, so what we do here is very similar to pro ball. We start off our practice an hour in the cage before they stretch, before they play catch. And so it's open from 1 to 2 o'clock. And now, of course, they can go in there anytime they want, but they go in there from 1 to 2 o'clock. And we have a basic maintenance program that we like our guys to do. But again, it's not for everybody. So we've got the T work. So they know our T system, middle, outer third, inner third, high T. We always start off with high T and then go middle third, outer third, inner third. I'm really big on the short bat, just making sure our hands are working properly. And I don't even really talk about hands as much as I do elbows. And I talk about, the front elbow's got to work to the inside half of the baseball, and the inside part of the back elbow's got to work to the inside half of the baseball. And if you can do that, your hands ultimately are going to get there, or the barrel's going to get there ultimately, I should say. So I love the short bat. We do a couple of, I call a 2-phase drill, where they get to separation just so they can feel that good athletic balance position. They don't reload, they don't restride. Somebody flips them the ball and they hit it, just so that they can feel everything staying connected. But like I said, not everybody does T work, because I've got some guys that try to manipulate their swing and they'll get that inward rotation because they know where the ball's at. It's like, no, you're not helping yourself. You're actually hurting yourself. You don't need T work. So everybody's kind of a little bit different. And I just kind of give them, hey, this is, as I get to know the hitter, then I might say, hey, this is what you need to do, because you dive in with your front foot, or you're not staying square. You're not, that front hip's a little bit open when you get to separation. So we need to do more 2-phase with you. And so these kids, they do the drill and they're like, oh my God, I love this. They just buy in. And so they get their work in the cage. And so what I always tell them, as I said, guys, just remember, hitting is baby steps. It's like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day. A hitter's not built in a day. I said, I want you guys to get perfect here in the cage. Absolutely. But then be patient, let time take its course, and it'll transfer out to the field for BP. And then from BP, it'll transfer to the game. So don't be in a rush. Don't look for the quick fix. Stay the course, embrace the grind. And so, like I said, we in the cage every day for an hour. And I know that those kids go there at nighttime, because I'll see the lights on, and they'll go in there and they might turn on the curveball machine so that they can train their eyes on seeing the curveball down for a ball. And they're just training their eyes over and over. That's a ball. That's a ball. That's a ball. Then they'll put it on a hanging breaking ball and go ahead and swing away at that. And again, not pulling it and hooking it foul, but driving it back up the middle or gap to gap. And so that's kind of our cage maintenance, if you will. But it's not just that hour that's spent in there that's going to be good enough for them. And they know, hey, if I'm going to be a really good hitter, I do have to come back up here and put in some extra time, whether it's early in the morning or whether it's in the evening time. So I love it. Like I said, we got a $500,000 indoor hitting facility. It's beautiful. I mean, we've had people come by and say, hey, this is better than what Clemson has, and so it's nice, and the players love it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but that makes total sense. Zach, I think we have to send our players over to West Florida, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, they're loaded, so we got to send them somebody good if we're going to do that.
No, Zach, I knew you wanted to ask Scott about his son.
Yeah, so I definitely want to ask, like, what are some of your favorite things to being able to coach with your son? I mean, I just think it's so cool, because I remember your son walking in the clubhouse at the Whitecaps, and I believe he was in high school at the time, and he was visiting for a week or a weekend, and I just remember he was this little skinny kid and really tall, and he was so nice. He was pretty shy. I didn't really talk to him a whole lot, but I just imagine like what it would be like coaching with my dad at a high level. That would be, I mean, I know for my dad, Dad, you would just eat that up, right? That'd be like your ultimate dream right there, to be able to coach every single day, go to the park with one of your sons. So, what are some of your favorite things? But that's got to be like so cool.
It's I can't describe it. Words really don't truly give a true meaning, because you're right. Scotty would always come and visit me in West. He actually would be with me almost that whole summer, and he was in high school. And he was at, we call it the baby giraffe syndrome. So he didn't know where he was going with his feet. He was just uncoordinated, kind of goofy, but he had good baseball actions. But the high school he went to, the coach just didn't like him. He's like, you need to get bigger. You got to get stronger. And I was like, son, you got to go in there and tell him, hey, man, I'm my dad's son. My dad was a late bloomer. And now my dad is, 6'3", 200 pounds. And I'm going to be big too. Just bear with me. And so he, I think, got cut twice in 4 years from his high school baseball team. And then summer ball, he was like, Dad, I can go play travel ball, or I could come and live with you for the summer. I just feel like that's more beneficial for me, being around professional baseball players and just being able to hit with you every day. So that was his choice. So he would spend every summer with me. And he's out there turning double plays with Eugenio Suarez, who's the Cincinnati Reds third baseman now. And the players were always great to him. They always had him out there every day in BP. He's out there in full uni, taking ground balls. And then he'd get his hacks in the cage. And then the strength coaches always put him on a great program. And so he went to junior college, Feather River College, which is in Quincy, California, just outside of Susanville and Reno, Nevada. And he had a great career there, and then went on and played at Centenary College in Shreveport, Louisiana, and then signed a free agent contract, played a year. And he's like, Dad, I think I want to coach. Do y'all need a GA? So I asked Jeffcoat, and he's like, for your son? I said, yeah. He's like, is he anything like you? I go, just like me. He goes, let's get him. So I was elated by that. And, now he's 6'5", 210 pounds. And it's like, where'd you get this height from, man? But going back to your question, Zach, when we won the Gulf South Conference Tournament Championship, I cried holding that trophy with him. And then I since had remarried, and my stepson is on this team. He's a left-handed pitcher for us.
No way.
So we have a picture of the three of us. I'm holding the trophy, and I got Hunter on my left. I got Scotty on my right, and I'm just bawling like a baby. And my wife is up there in the stands, and she's bawling. She's like, I cannot believe this. It's like a storybook. And that's how I met Mike Jeffcoat. So I walk away from Detroit, and my wife, really, it was her idea. She goes, you need to watch your son play, and you need to watch my son play. And I said, okay. And so I spent an entire summer with her son traveling around the Southeast, this travel baseball that's crazy as all get out. I mean, we're living in hotels. We're eating at terrible restaurants, 6 straight weeks. Well, the first tournament we're in, the team was Florida Travel Baseball.
FTB,
a lot of guys, FTB, a lot of guys in the big leagues, like Lindor, he played for FTB. A lot of guys played for FTB. So anyways, we go to the first tournament, and Mike Jeffcoat's son is on the team. And Mike and I we met before the first game, and we just clicked. We're both high energy guys, both ADHD, love to hunt, love to fish, love baseball. And he's a lot like me. Guy played a little bit of minor league baseball. He was a pitcher, and I think a year, maybe 2 with St. Louis, and got released. I mean, exact same. It's crazy how we're so similar. And so I would always come up here, and I would watch my stepson pitch his freshman year. And after his freshman year, we're sitting down, drinking some beers together one night. And he goes, do you miss coaching? I said, I'm going crazy. I'm driving my wife crazy. I'm so bored. I'm doing hitting lessons, and those are terrible. I feel like a babysitter. And I just didn't enjoy it because it's not that competitiveness. You're not on the field. And he goes, I can't pay you what you're worth, but would you like to come here and being assistant coach, and basically we can pay you by taking care of the field. And I said, are you kidding me? And he goes, no, I didn't mean to insult you. I said, you're not insulting me. You're getting me excited. Let me ask my wife. And my wife was all for it. It's tough at times being 7 hours away from your wife, but she's awesome. She understands, she gets it, and she's happy for me because she sees how happy I am again. And the fact that I'm up here with my two boys, it's a very special moment coaching alongside with your son, and then you've got your stepson on the pitching staff. So I all I can tell you is it's awesome. It's awesome just to be next to your son and talking baseball strategy, because every time we come home at night, we're roommates. And so we're talking about the game. And, he's got some great insight. I'm really, really impressed. Now, of course, like you, Zach, you're born and raised in a dugout. So you're going to have that coach's son baseball IQ. But it's impressive. And he's been very, very instrumental in our success because he can relate to these players, because he's 26. These guys are 20, 18, 19, 21, and he can still relate to them, and they trust him, and they can go up to him and say, hey, I got this going on with my girlfriend, or I got this problem. I just don't want any of the coaches to know. And so at least he's somebody there that can kind of listen to him and maybe give him some advice and help him out. So it's awesome. I just love being in the dugout with him, not as my son and I'm the coach, but as a coach with a coach. And it's really cool. Really cool.
Well, we can relate to that, right, Zach? Because we've had a chance to coach together, the two of us, travel
That's
ball,
awesome.
and it's been it was a lot of fun doing that and being in the dugout and calling out plays and coming up with the batting order. But I realized early on, Scott, that they're a lot more smarter than us.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy. And the other thing, I'm sure you can attest to this, that Zach was a better ball player than you.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
yeah,
unbelievable. I was watching my son play, and I'm like, man, you're so much fun to watch play. I don't know if your grandfather ever enjoyed watching me play.
Well, Scott, I tell you what, we've had a blast talking to you. It's been great to hear your story, because I think it's a story that a lot of people will relate to, because you've done it all. You've coached all these different levels. You've had all these great experiences. But I think the bottom line, what I learned the most, is that you have to grind it out. I mean, nothing is given to you. You have to work hard to earn it, because it only makes it that much more rewarding in the end.
There's no doubt. I mean, I'm so happy where I'm at. And, my friends that are still in pro ball, they're like, man, I'm jealous of you. You're in college baseball and you're just having so much fun. This game's changed so much. Our job is not nearly as much fun as it was when you were here. It's just changed. And I really feel blessed. And sometimes I remember, you forget, like I said earlier, where you come from. And my son had told me, he's like, Dad, you always talk about pro ball being a grind. College baseball is more of a grind than pro ball. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, Dad, you haven't played college baseball in 35 years. You forget getting up at 5 in the morning to go lift weights. You forget that you got to go to class every day. You forget that you had to go to study hall 4 times a week. You forget that you went to a 4-hour practice every day, and then you might be lucky to play 3 games in 3 days. And you're doing that over and over. In pro ball, what do? You show up to the ballpark at 1 o'clock, the earliest. And then you might have some early work with your hitting coach at 2. If you don't have early work, you can show up at 2:30 or 3. And then if it's a home game, you do your team fundamental, you do your individual defense, take BP, do a little maintenance work in the cage, play a game, go home, go to bed, do it all over again. That's all you do is play ball. And I said, well, now that you say it that way, I think you're right. College is more of a grind.
Maybe more of a physical grind, but I bet that mental, like at the professional level, that mental grind, yeah, you get to the ballpark at 1 o'clock, but you're fighting for your livelihood every single day to try and get up to that next level. That's just got to take a toll on your mindset.
There's no doubt. And I think what's better about pro ball than college is that they get to play every day. Mm-hmm. And so you can go, hey, you know what's great about tomorrow? Tomorrow's a new day, a new game. So I can flush this one. In college, sometimes you're like, daggum, I got to wait 5 days before I can get another at bat. And I was 0 for 12 this weekend, man. So I totally agree with you, Zach. But what I loved about pro ball was that all I have to do during the season is I got to lift weights twice a week, and I just got to play baseball. And I know that tomorrow's a new day. Yeah. And yes, if you're not strong here, it can really wear you out. And that's where I'd see these second, third, fourth round guys couldn't make it past high A ball because they could not get over themselves. They were their own worst enemy, their own worst critic. They couldn't let it go. And then the guys that were 12th, 14th rounders that made it to the big leagues, their mindset was incredible, so good. They just, like Toby Harrah used to tell me all the time, he goes, if you can let a bad at bat go like water off of a duck's back, you're going to be a better hitter. And then he said it to me as a coach. He goes, you care too much about these kids when they're struggling. He goes, let me ask you a question. Do you take credit for when they swing the bat well? I said, no, sir, I'm not in the batter's box. They are. He goes, so then why do you take credit when they strike out or they have a bad night? I go, because I feel for them. And I don't want them to go home and commit suicide.
Like that.
Well, Scott, we definitely will have to have you on the show again. Thank you so much for your time. He is Scott Dwyer, an assistant coach at the University of West Florida, the Argonauts, Pensacola, Florida. Good luck in the off season, and come back and get them next year.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you so much, guys, for having me on. It's a pleasure and a true honor, and I look forward to coming back on your show. This is fun.
All right, take care.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
Wow, that was he was great, Zach. What a great guest for you to suggest for the show.
I know. As soon as I've been doing some digging on like what kind of contacts I have, who would be a good guest and things like that. And as soon as I came across his name and I saw that him and his son are on the same coaching staff at a Division II powerhouse school, I was like, this is perfect. This is exactly what we're looking for. And he's such a good guy. I knew he would be happy to join us. So such a cool guest today.
Yeah, he was a great guest because, like I said earlier, he kind of give you a glimpse behind the scenes of what these coaches go through because you don't even know, right? I mean, think of all the college baseball programs out there from NAIA, Division II, Division III, Division I, JUCO. I mean, all these coaches, and they all have these stories. And some of them have coached professionally, have played professionally. Some of them haven't, some of them have been in it for decades. Some of them are new. Some of them are young and old. I mean, everyone has a cool story and has dreams and aspirations.
And I really like that he brought it into perspective on how much money some of these guys make. A lot of people don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, and made it more realistic for our listeners because a lot of people don't know what coaches make, and it's pretty eye-opening. I mean, his first head coaching job, he was making $5,000 a year, right, which is not unheard of. I mean, assistants now are making around that much at a small school. And when you factor in all the hours that you put in on the field, before practice, after practice, and maintenance, recruiting, calls, travel, you don't even want to calculate how much you're making an hour. Just don't even do it.
Right. And then have a family on top of that. I mean, I can't even imagine. But he was a great guest, and thank you for suggesting him. And one thing we didn't get a chance to ask him about was just the tournament play, because we're in that part of the season, right? His team just missed going to the World Series at D2, and it's that time, right? Division I is starting up College World Series. I'm of course representing the Chippewas, Central Michigan University, making it into the College World Series, or I should say into the regional, right? Super regional. What are they in?
Right. So they do the field of 64,
right?
And that is considered regionals. So there's 18 sites, and there's 4 teams per site, and they do just a weekend little mini tournament. And the teams that come out of those go on to super regionals, and they get matched up against one other team, and they play a series, and then whoever wins out of that goes to Omaha for the College World Series.
Yeah, so this is like the next step to get there, but Central Michigan University has to play Notre Dame on Friday. I believe this is a double elimination tournament. Michigan is also in the same little mini tournament there in South Bend. And I think Connecticut is the other team that's in that Michigan's got to play Connecticut. So and I wonder if Zane's going to be able to catch some of the games there in South Bend.
I mean, he only lives a couple miles down the road, so he better pop over there for a game or two.
I have a video shoot in St. Joseph, so I'm hoping to make it over. If not for the Central Michigan game, head on over and make it to the Michigan game. And then since it's double elimination, I'm sure there'll be a game on Saturday too, right? So stick around.
Yeah,
and watch
Friday, Saturday,
play.
Sunday. I was looking at driving down to Columbia, South Carolina, where the Gamecocks are hosting. Maybe go catch one of the Sunday games down there. So we'll see.
Now, didn't Charlotte make it into the playoffs?
They did. They had a really good year. They won Conference USA. They got knocked out early of the Conference USA tournament, but since they had, they were a top 25 team this year. They were an at-large bid. They are in the ECU Regional in Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay, that's further from you, right?
Yeah, it's on the almost to the coast, east side of the state.
Yeah.
Probably about a 3-hour drive, 3.5 hour drive. Same distance for me as it would be to go to Knoxville, Tennessee to see the University of Tennessee play.
I guess you could do that too.
Yeah. Got options in the South.
We got options down the South, not in the North. I mean, all we have is South Bend, but I'm lucky that's that close by, and hopefully I'll be able to catch some games this weekend. So, all right. Well, thanks again. It's been a great show. We have more guests lined up, right, Zach?
Yes, I'm in communication with a bunch of people all the time, trying to figure out schedule and what fits when and where. So good things to come with this podcast. I'm excited.
Good things to come. Folks, if you want to email us, you can do that bigleaguedreaming at gmail.com. We'd love to hear your suggestions for future guests, comments about the show, suggestions. We would love to hear from you. And then, of course, Zach, Ty always has information about how to get in touch with us on Twitter. Right, Ty?
Hey, it's Ty from Big League Dreaming Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at BLDpod. That is at BLDPOD. And we're also on TikTok now as well. So give us a follow at Big League Dreaming. We'd love to connect with you.